Okay, just to explain, in the previous video I made one really major mistake, and after consulting with the creator of Easy Ballistics, I think we got everything sorted out and even made some improvements to the system that should be live on both 4.25 and 4.26 soon. So the error I made is that by default the Easy Ballistic Projectile EB Bullet class is not replicated. I thought that it is by design, but actually how it should be replicated and should not replicate movement and should not be net load on client. So this is the proper replication setup, which makes the bullet work properly on both listen server and dedicated server. Okay, also in the gun itself, there were some things that didn't work properly, and we got it sorted out, and they will work as designed in the near future. One of them is an event ammo depleted that was triggering on tick, which should not happen. It should trigger on every frame that when the gun fires the last bullet in the magazine and has no bullet in the chamber. So you can use this to set up a variable or open a gate, or do some other stuff that would allow you to on trigger reload instead of shooting and just do it once. So this is one of the things, and ready to shoot event is actually an event that's being triggered after the proper reload when there is a bullet in the chamber. And this also triggers on tick, so you should also use it as a do once or use it with a gate. But you can call on those event dispatchers directly by adding an event here, or you can just get the reference to the barrel component, which you can do even in other actors. So you can go into, for example, oh wait, let's get to the right map. You can go into your character, and when you get this weapon and you set the reference to the weapon, you can also get EB barrel component, and you can bind event ready to shoot, and you can also bind event ammo depleted, and you can use those two events to open and close some variables or gates that would change behavior of how your inputs react. Shot fired, which is a replicated event dispatcher, and this triggers after the projectile was spawned. There is a new event which is not able yet, which will be before shot fired, which always trigger before the bullet spawns. Okay, took me a few hours, but I got it working finally. So my goal was to use this project, BallisticsFX, which is an amazing project that was free for one of the months of free marketplace content. If you haven't grabbed it then, shame on you. You should buy it then, definitely. It's an amazing pack that got projectile sounds, ricochets, particles, different reactions between particles and materials. It's just amazing. So what I wanted to do is make it fully multiplayer, and let me show you what I managed to do. I can even play in third person or first person. I can reload, which is fully replicated, aim offset is replicated, everything is replicated. Obviously, destructible meshes are not replicated because this is not by default and it requires some more work, and that could be a different tutorial. But the projectiles, the ricochets, hit, sound and particles, it's all replicated. But the difference between the standard projectiles and those projectiles is that those are running on the Easy Ballistics plugin, which means that by default they got penetration, ricochets, all that stuff from the plugin. So I didn't have to do it in blueprints, I didn't have to replicate it, the plugin is doing it for me. So all I had to do is just replicate spawning of all that cool stuff, and oh yeah, this sometimes happens if the bullet doesn't despawn properly, but that's an easy fix. So we got this, those guys, of course, register hits, so they bleed. Each component can be hit only once. Okay, so one of the first things we need to do is to obviously copy everything that we got inside BallisticsFX content folder. So BallisticsFX folder, we can leave collection developer alone. And then we need to do one more thing just to make our lives easier. We're going to go into BallisticsFX, go into config, go into default engine, and inside default engine at the bottom you will find physics surfaces config. You just copy all of it, copy it, go into our project, go into default engine, open it, find your surfaces, which is here, and overwrite with this one, save it. We'll do also one more adjustment for what we are going to do now. Is inside here where we have bullet class, which is ammo. Okay, so on begin play we'll also take this barrel and set ammo, and this is basically the reload. Okay. We'll do this, and we will make a single object array, and we will make this a variable called ammo class, and we will expose that class at spawn, and we'll store it inside this variable. And because we don't want it to ever change and to be reliable from the client, from the server, we'll make it replicated. Okay, so that's it. And now when we go into our blueprints weapon example reload, we also don't do this, we actually have to get weapon, and this is the weapon, and because we already know the weapons class, we can directly fetch a variable from it and push it here. Okay, let's do it like this, and let's make sure that it has a default. So the default will be this. We can compile and save now. Okay, and that's it. Okay, so we loaded BallisticsFX. Let's make a player start in this room, just because reasons, and let's delete this one. Let's go back here. Okay, and if we go into word setting, we'll change okay, just to this one. They unfortunately named the same, but now we can see that we got our character class, and if we hit play, we actually spawn here. Okay, we can just shoot our bullets. So we'll have to do a few more things. Just to show you at what we are aiming at, we'll go into our gun and on shot fired, we will spawn actor from class, and this actor will be I think it was this one. What's the difference between those two? Okay, this one is completely not working at the moment. So it should be this one, qubit uni projectile. So qubit universal projectile probably. So we'll spawn this. So every time we shoot our easy ballistic bullet, we'll also spawn this projectile with everything default. And we'll set instigator controller and pound get controlled pound, and we'll set it as instigator. Okay, so we are spawning a new projectile with everything default. We'll take also our arrow and we'll get transform and get word transform, and we'll set it as the spawn transform. Okay, so now when we shoot, we not only spawn our projectile that is doing this trade, but we are spawning the projectile that we want, that has all those really cool reactions, particles, sounds, and everything. Okay, reload. Okay, so this is what we are aiming for, but this projectile right now is just an actor that is a projectile, and it's not replicated, and it's not using our system, so you have to copy a lot of stuff from it. So if you have a single player game, this is sort of a workaround that you could do, but I don't think this is the best way to do things, so I'll show you how to copy some of the logic from this projectile to our projectile. But let's go back here, and we need to set up one more thing. But I think it's in the bullet itself. Yes, it's in the projectile itself. So let's go into our defaults, and okay, we are tracing channel of word static. We want to make a new trace. So we'll go into our project settings once again. And by the way, if you go into surface, you can see that we now have those surfaces that we copied. So we got 36 surfaces, or 37 overall, starting from, 0 is default, so 36 surfaces. But what we want is collision, and we want, okay, no, we want just to go into the collision settings, and we want to make not an object channel but a trace channel, and we'll call this channel projectiles. So we know we can set up per object how we want to everything react to our projectiles. So by default, what we want block. If we make a new object type, we want it by default to block projectile, but we actually go into presets and we'll change this on some object types. So if something has no collision, edit, projectile, ignore. If something blocking all, we don't do anything, overlap all. Well, if overlap all, then overlap all, except block all dynamic, overlap all dynamic, this will also be overlap, ignore only pound, so this ignores only pound, okay, that's fine. Overlap only pound should ignore projectile, if so. Um, okay, pawn leaving at blocking. No, you know what? Actually, pawn will be ignoring, and character mesh by default is blocking because we don't want the pawn as a capsule to block. We want the character mesh to block the projectiles. Okay, spectator definitely ignore. Accept. Okay, physics actor. Okay, block. Destructible definitely block. Invisible wall. Invisible cannot stop projectiles, so we need to do it like this. Invisible wall dynamic. Also ignore. Trigger volumes. Ignore. Ragdoll. Well, they should stop projectiles. Vehicles definitely should stop projectile. UI definitely should ignore completely projectile channel. And water body collision, it should ignore projectile. Okay, so now we have projectile set up, and we could go into our projectile and say the trace channel is projectiles. So first of all, let's go into our AGR examples, blueprints, weapon examples, and if you download the newest repository, all you have to do is just migrate the BallisticsFX into your folder and do one more thing. You have to set up the physical surfaces in a proper way so that the data table gives you same surfaces as it expects. Okay, and then inside AGR examples, blueprints, weapon examples, I made a copy of our bullet and I called it Awesome Projectile. Now, Awesome Projectile got few things changed. I had to add some new variables. So how I did all this is I took the original BallisticsFX projectile. So it's here. And it has all those values, which is really a lot, and all this logic, which is also really a lot. And I just copied all of it to my projectile, and then I started deleting stuff that I noticed I don't really need, and this is what I end up with. So I end up with just 4 variables that are copied. One is surface type, materials value, projectile size, and decal life, which is a new one. I just made it to control how long the decals are being alive. Projectile size is just one of 3 decal and VFX sizes. Let's put it on large for now. And I've made a new thing, which is this hit component array, and I will show you how everything works. So first of all, this projectile settings, I've just set up those two. I disabled debug. I don't need it because I already done all the debug for you guys. Rest here is exactly the same. All this safe launch stays the same. I've greatly decreased the velocity because I wanted to physically see those projectiles when they are moving at the normal speed of 70,000. They were moving too fast for me to see in this small room. So I had to change that to only 30,000. It's a lot better. I leave everything as is. I think I didn't change anything here as well. Default penetration trace type I've done. Oh, it should be, yeah, backtrace. That's fine. It requires to change some of the replication stuff, but I already covered that. I made a new collision channel, which is called projectiles, and I set default to ignore, and I only set certain object types to block projectiles. So pawn character, not pawn as a whole thing. So I don't want the the collision capsule to block projectiles, physics assets, ragdoll, stuff like that. We could actually increase the despawn velocity because this is 1 meter per second. Well, let's make it even like 500. No substepping fixing, retrace on the same channel. Okay, everything stays the same. And there's a very important feature I haven't covered before. It is called pooling. Pooling means that actors that are being spawned, those projectiles, they're not being altogether spawned and destroyed as you should. It has a certain pool of objects that are being already spawned, kept in memory, and just stored somewhere for reuse. So until you spawn more than 50 projectiles, there are just the same 50 projectiles used over and over again. So because of this pooling, I have to clear my hit components array at begin play because I want to start with nothing. This is by design, and I will tell you why. And then on event tick, there is an event I copied from the original Qubit Uni projectile, which is scaling the projectile as a whole, so it looks a lot longer, so you can see it when it's traveling at a very high speed, and it's make it a lot smaller when it decelerates to very low speed. So that's actually very good. Okay. And then you have this event. So one that we haven't touched in the previous tutorial, which is event on impact. And this event on impact got actually all those are just things you can get from the hit result, but it got two more booleans that are specific for easy ballistic. One is if the projectile ricochet, and the second if it's passed through, so it's a penetrating one. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to get our hit components, which is an empty array, check if we already registered a hit on some component that we just impacted. If we did, then don't do anything, because we don't Easy Ballistics is doing multiple traces per frame and additional traces in substepping. So it is very simple to hit a single actor or component multiple times if you don't do this gate. So you check if it already contains this component. If it doesn't contain this component, then add unique to this array and continue. And when you continue, you go here, and then actually I'm not really using this anywhere, I think. Find references. No, I really don't. So we're taking surface of what we hit, and we go into our material data table, and it has some interesting values, and from those values, if we weren't lazy as I am, we could actually drive the Easy Ballistics multiplication of it's here. So we could drive some of the values regard the spread or all of those impact information. So how it should react based on what it hit. So it might slow a lot more when ricocheting from mud than it would from stone, obviously. Or other soft materials would stop the ballistic, like slowed it down a lot more. But I'm not doing anything with it. I'm just saving this value just in case if I ever need it. And then we go forward and we check if we ricochet. And this is the first check we do. If we did ricochet, then we go into deal damage and impact event with impact type ricochet, and we push hit, and we calculate damage from impact velocity times mass. So this is basically momentum of the bullet. So as we increase mass value, we increase the damage of the bullet. Typical, we're moving at 30,000 with this mass. Well, it's still that's like 600 damage, which is a lot at full speed. So you can divide it, multiply it by some other number, and get something normalized in range of your liking. But it's still based on velocity and mass of the projectile. Then we do another gate that's saying, did it pass through? If it passed through, we push impact type penetration. And then if it didn't pass through and didn't ricochet, it means that it's a termination type projectile. So this is an enumeration from the Easy Ballistics. And if it is termination, then we are again clearing this component array. However, this should still happen here anyway, just in case. Okay, so let's click here and move here. So deal damage, we get the hit event, we break it because we need some variables from it. We are doing debug print that we actually no longer need. Okay. And besides, we have a better debug print here. So we can get the owner of the bullet, and the owner of the bullet is the actor that contains Easy Ballistic barrel. So in our example, owner of this bullet is the BP example gun or any other gun that is attached to our character. So we check if it's valid. If it is valid, then we get this, and you know what? We know that it's always valid. So we could pretty much as an instigator and causer push this owner, and that's it, but whatever. So we get the owner, push it as event instigator and damage causer. We can also get instigator controller and push it forward as event instigator. And because applied damage only happens on the server, the instigator controller is always valid. Even on dedicated server knows about all controllers and will have a valid reference. Here we could also set up damage type based on our bullet, but we just set damage type to damage type and nothing fancy with that. And we have a function that's saying projectile forward vector. This is the hit from direction. We actually could just pass normal, and that would be, I think, also fine. Oh no, because we want to know actual direction from which the actor got hit. Okay, so this is how we do it. We get the default scene route, which is just a scene route. We get the forward vector. We get the rotation from X and get rotation X vector. So this is just the direction of this, well, direction to this actor. And that's it. Let's go back here. Okay. And then we apply point damage because we want to apply point not only to actor but to with this hit information, which contains also hit component. It is important if we want to do headshots or leg shots or destroy destructible objects. The standard qubit uni projectile, it deals damage as radial damage with very small diameter. I think it's, yeah, just 5 by 20, so it's just 20 centimeters diameter. But it's still radial, we don't need radial. And then we get the display name. This is just a debug print I'm no longer using, which was printing the name of the owner and hit component and just saying how much damage was dealt to what actor and what component of that actor. And then we do a spawn fx, which is an event, and then we do a 1/20 of a second wait. And if the actor that we hit is simulating physics, then we apply impulse at location. And we just get the velocity. You know what we need to get? No, it's fine. Or you know what? We don't really have to add impulse. Let me think about it. No, the easy ballistic is already, I think, applying. Yeah, it is applying impulse. And it's applying impulse based on momentum, so we don't need to apply impulse, so we can delete that. Okay, so just go into SpawnFX. And in the SpawnFX, we also push hit event, ricochet vector, impact type as an enumeration, and exit location. And exit location is here. Wait. Why do we push exit location? Oh, okay, I see. So this is SpawnFX. Okay, we never actually push this exit location, which is terrible from our point. It should go here, and exit location should be pushed to all of those objects. Okay. Okay, forgot about that. So it wasn't spawning properly decals on exit. Okay, but now it will. Damage SpawnFX. We go to SpawnFX, and then we go a thing that might look strange for you. So we map impact types to impact types, and if it's penetration, we set termination. If it's ricochet, we set ricochet, and if it's termination, we set termination. Why penetration is termination? It's because BallisticsFX, the guy who made it, he was planning to do bullet penetration through objects, but he never implemented it fully. So his projectiles, they never ever made penetration. So if you push penetration as impact type, there will be no sound and no effect spawned, and we don't want that. So we change this effect here to termination, but ricochet has a special sounds and special impact information, so we do leave ricochet as ricochet and both those as termination. So you do this, and then we just spawn this qubit FX, and we just feed all this information that we have and all those components that we simply copied from the original projectile. No, nothing fancy here. And let me see. And then we do a quick branch and we check if our impact type indeed was ricochet. So if it is, oh no, if it was penetrate, and if it was penetrate, then we need to spawn actor impact FX spawner again, but this time we spawn it at a made transform from the exit location, and it has the impact normal. You know what? This should be reverted. Yeah, this should be reverted. And yeah, the impact normal, we make a rotation out of it from X vector, and then we revert it and put it in rotation. I think from X vector. It might be Z, but we will see in a second. And a fixed size should be also a fixed size. And here everything is exactly the same. This is always termination because the okay, because at the exit of a penetration we want to have the same impact sound and effect and decal and everything as we had on entry. Okay, so that's it. That's it. From this we made this, and from those variables we made those, and that's it. Okay, I just noticed what caused the bullets not to despawn properly on multiplayer, and it was pulling. So if you have a tracer bullet that has a visual representation, and it could be annoying if it stays alive, just disable pulling. Pulling is really great for non-tracer bullets. So if you have multiple bullets in an ammunition belt, please mind that only the tracers should have pulling enabled. You can see that all the ricochet, all the bullets are registered in the same way, and the bullet never stays on the character and just glowing forever. Okay, yeah,